Hello, this is Community Manager Jeff the Rain Man Braddock here to alert you to our latest update for Battlefield 5, which comes out exactly 1 month after our previous patch, which kicked off Chapter 4 called Defying the Odds, which is an appropriate name because it not only defies odds, but also logic that we've delayed this patch back from our normal every other week cadence, but the notes can fit on one page of a Reddit post. We decided to limit the number of fixes in this patch to just 10 bullet points, which is a nice 2-digit number, so that this way we don't try to do too much and instead break more things than we fix, even though we'll inevitably disappoint people with a delayed patch that doesn't contain much. I'm going to lift you up before letting you down again, so let's go over what's actually in this patch. I know visibility has been a big problem in our game. With the last patch, we took it one step further by accidentally introducing a bug where you'd get killed by a floating weapon and gadgets because soldiers were completely invisible due to a client-side rendering problem that we have addressed in this update. Additionally, the stuttering that happens when killing enemies with tanks is now eliminated. However, there are probably still instances with stuttering, especially when completing assignments, because simple mathematical actions like addition isn't our strong suit here at DICE, and we wrote the patch notes in such a way that we only make the commitment to fix extreme instances of the aforementioned invisible soldier bug so that we can weasel our way out of promises like we always do if it isn't actually fixed. Other than nerfing the fire rate of the revolver by 20 rounds per minute instead of actually making other pistols somewhat useful, the rest are just minor bug fixes, including one instance of updating some UI element to display the correct amount of bombs for the JU-88 in the company menu, which we did in order to get to that magical 10 number, which makes people like me feel warm and fuzzy inside. When in actuality, we're just fixing the things that we injected with the patch from a whole month ago. Now, before you go sulking into the corner like I usually do after yet another rejection, the new Marita map will come on Tuesday, July 30th, just in the nick of time to be still on schedule according to our required roadmap for our Tides of War live service buzzword excuse to ship a shell of a product with a promise of filling it later, but unlike Al Sundan, which we technically did deliver on time because it was done in June, but only for small modes like Team Deathmatch and Squad Conquest, missing our previous mid-July target as DICE tends to do for all game modes, Marita will have those small modes as well as Conquest, Breakthrough, and 2 modes that are currently not in playlists, Frontlines, and Domination. Oh, and of course, since we do work for EA after all, new Elites will also be available for purchase on Tuesday via the premium currency derisively called Boins, with Norman Kingsley, a desert character model port over from Battlefield 1, and Ilsa Schattenwolf, another Battlefield 1 character model port over of the Tank Hunter Elite class with a gas mask on for that type of minimal effort for maximum profit you come to expect from us because I calculated it as such. I am now going to irritate you with a list of all of the problems that we're not fixing in this patch, but instead the next one, called the 4.4 update, while we have the nerve to release microtransactions for our broken product. Why is the next patch called 4.4 when the current one is 4.2, you may ask? Well, besides our obvious counting problem, since we've learned from lessons past, we will skip a release number just in case we break more shit than we fix, since it's par for the course, so this way we can release a 4.3 update if we need a quicker than 1 month turnaround fix. That next patch, 4.4, is due to be released at the end of August, so that every other week cadence that we've been marching towards is now even slower in spite of more problems with the game now than ever. The patch will hopefully contain fixes for additional performance and stability issues, an increase to that arbitrary rank number that people are somehow fixated on the need to change it in spite of it being meaningless overall, up to 500, fixing the continued UI issue of doing more than 100 damage to a player without killing them, displaying the wrong number because arithmetic is hard for anybody that's not me. And yes, we're still saying it's a UI issue and not a problem with hit detection, registration, or damage input, in spite of mountains of evidence on the contrary with game footage and counting hit markers. Removing the ADS delay after healing or using a gadget, making spotting scopes actually do the only thing they're supposed to do and actually spot things. Fixes for hitbox issues on vehicle gunners, players reviving others, and vaulting soldiers. Inconsistent damage with the AT mine, buffing AT pistol grenades against buildings, and Fortnite-ifications, updates to the Fortress limited time mode, as well as looting improvements and a respawn mechanic for the Firestorm game mode. And besides bug fixes, we'll introduce the new smaller maps, Provence and Lofoten Islands, although the 5v5 mode details are still nowhere to be found outside of data mining. Yes, we do realize that's a lot of things in DICE's favorite four-letter word, soon, bucket. But we want to take some baby steps to not make the game any worse than it already is, which is pretty sad for a game that's already been out 8 months now. But hey, that's what happens in the live service era, where gaming companies overpromise and underdeliver because publishers don't understand the time spent doing new content during the life cycle of the game takes away from testing patches or developing fixes properly.
All right, Jeff, get the fuck back to work, and I will try to do your job of actually getting people hyped and interested in playing the fucking game by talking about that data mining shit you alluded to, because let's be honest, when DICE tries to say that they're working on shit, nobody believes them, like a husband saying he'll take care of it after his wife has nagged him multiple times. These leakers are the only ones actually showing us the light at the end of this long, dark live service tunnel. You thought I was going to say dick, didn't you? That seems to be going deeper, again a dick reference, instead of brighter. So let's talk about what was found in the last two updates. Considering that the Marita map is supposed to be coming out on Tuesday, it's not much of a surprise that there will be a Battle for Greece operation that ties it with the previously released Mercury map. However, there is no information as to which game modes will be played on which maps, other than Airborne, obviously, to start Marita, and Final Stand to potentially end Mercury on day 4, which rarely ever fucking happens. There's also upcoming rewards for the future weeks of the Chapter 4, Defying the Odds, Tides of War, in case you don't want to force yourself to suffer through Firestorm for a piece of headgear this week. But they were mentioned in the coming soon black hole in that patch notes blog post. The Panzer Bush 39 anti-tank rifle for the Scout class, which is originally scheduled for week 7, August 8th till the 14th, before being replaced with an M30 drilling weapon set for people that like to both snipe and shotgun. But that anti-tank rifle will then probably be for week 8, August 15th through the 21st. The C96 pistol carbine, also for the Scout class, during week 9, August 22nd through the 28th, is an easy port over from the prior title, and the Breda M1935 during either week 11, which is September 5th to the 11th, or week 12, September 12th to the 18th, that players of Call of Duty World War II will recognize as the ITRA burst. During some of the other weeks, there are melee weapon rewards that are the laziest kind of just an asset swap without statistical benefit, with week 6 starting on August 1st through August 7th, rewarding the Arditi dagger that was again in the previous iteration of Battlefield, and week 10 from August 29th through September 4th, rewarding the Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife. Also in challenges, there are references to new community missions, which will probably act like an accumulation of all events from all players, which will inevitably be fucked because DICE isn't great at accounting. See the company coin problems in the past. There have been additional weapons and gadgets which have not been tied to a specific weekly reward, with the gadgets being a familiar face to modern FPS games, the barbed wire with a maximum capacity of 2 that damages and slows enemies passing through. But then what's the point of having this when you could literally build them as fortifications for free? And an M2 flamethrower, probably for Chapter 5, which was an all-classes weapon back in the Vietnam expansion for Bad Company 2, so it's not too far of a stretch to see that item considering the assets are already somewhere, someplace. But will it be relegated to a single class, or will it be an all-class option, essentially like the AP Mines infestation? The weapon list includes a pair of bolt-action rifles, the Jungle Carbine, which is actually more famous for its use during a different later war, and the Swiss K31, which comes with a unique characteristic of having an integral scope, which allows you to switch between 1x and 3x magnification with a specialization, making that longer range scope a 6 times, like the variable zoom attachments on snipers in past Battlefield titles. In probable Chapter 5 weapons, there's the Type 99, although it's unclear if that's the bolt-action Arasaka or the LMG version, and 2 SMGs, the M3 Grease Gun and Type 100, as one would expect for the introduction of the Pacific Theater late in September. Lastly, in weapon things, there are assets pertaining to weapon charms, similar to the feature in Call of Duty games where you can see a cosmetic beepity bop hanging from your gun, with the current offerings being a dog tag, fishing lure, fossil, France medal, thankfully not a flag, otherwise it would be white and probably get dirty during the match, a pine tree, and a tally counter. It's unclear how you'd get these other than fossil apparently being tied to a particular weapon set, thus that means either some sort of weekly reward because you can get weapon sets during the Tides of War, or as a purchasable cosmetic with company coin or points. In addition to even more US soldier cosmetics found in files, which will hopefully render in for everybody during the match with this particular update. There has been a new game mode discovered that is named Invasion, but it's essentially a beach landing game mode, which is comical that Fortnite actually has a Storm the Beach mode before a fucking World War II game does. It's split into two different phases, with the first probably being similar to how Conquest Assault went in the Cape Hells map from Battlefield 1, with one team needing to use water vehicles to get onto the beach from the ocean, but this time you could actually build beachhead spawn points as attackers, with the defenders essentially spawn trapping, which is always a joy to play, right? Phase 2 sounds eerily similar to Rush, so I'm glad that DICE took all of that time to improve the mode that was only in the game for a couple of weeks at a time when it was a staple in games past, but hey, at least they're making improvements on these modes in order to make them not suck when they eventually come back. Anyways, that's all the Battlefield updates for today, and can you believe I dragged out a 10 bullet point patch notes video to over 11 minutes? Hashtag sellout mode engaged. Hopefully we'll actually get Al Sundan for all game modes prior to those other smaller maps to be released at the end of August, but DICE constantly shoots themselves in the foot, so I expect nothing and somehow I'm still disappointed. I've been Dosh Wants 27, making like Tigger and bouncing. Until next time.